My brother Preston stood in our parents' kitchen with his arms crossed like a nightclub bouncer, blocking my path to the table where our mother sat with her hands folded, avoiding my eyes. My father hovered near the counter, his jaw set in that way that meant he'd already made up his mind about something that concerned me, but didn't include me. "We need to discuss Saturday," Preston said, not bothering with pleasantries. I held the wrapped first edition novel I'd hunted down for 3 months, Mom's favorite author, a pristine 1961 copy that cost me $4,000. "Mom's 60th, I'll be there at 7. "That's the problem." Preston moved closer, using his height like a weapon. "This isn't some casual family dinner. Mom's friends from the country club will be there, Dad's business associates, senior partners from my firm. These are influential people who matter." The air in the kitchen went cold. "Before we go further, if you're ready to see how this revenge unfolds, hit that subscribe button for Formidable Revenge Channel. And we love you. Drop a like and comment below where you're watching from. You won't want to miss what happens next." My father cleared his throat. "What Preston's trying to say is, maybe it's better if you sit this one out. These gatherings are about presentation. Mom's friends talk. They compare their children's accomplishments." "And me?" I asked, my voice steady despite the way my chest was tightening. Preston didn't even hesitate. "You're 32. You live in a rental. You work from home doing God knows what on a laptop. You drive a 2014 Honda Civic. You dress like you shop at thrift stores. We can't have you there when Helen Montgomery's daughter just made junior partner at Strauss & Klein, or when the Thornton kid is a neurosurgeon at Johns Hopkins. What are we supposed to say when people ask about you?" The words hung in the air like smoke from a fire someone just started. My mother finally looked up, her eyes wet but not wet enough to actually spill over. "Emma, honey, it's Zora, Mom. You've called me Zora my entire life." She flinched. "Zora, Preston has a point. Mrs. Montgomery will ask. She always asks. And honestly, what would I tell her? That you've been finding yourself for almost a decade?" I looked at my father. He couldn't meet my gaze. "You could tell them I'm an entrepreneur," I offered, knowing exactly where this would land. Preston actually laughed, a sharp, cruel sound that reminded me of every childhood moment he'd made me feel small. "An entrepreneur? Is that what you call someone who's been avoiding a real career since they graduated? You've been building something for 8 years. That's not ambition, that's delusion." I set the wrapped book on the counter carefully, like placing an artifact I no longer had rights to touch. My hands didn't shake. That surprised me. "So, I'm an embarrassment. That's the official family position?" "Don't be dramatic," Preston snapped. "We're being realistic. This is a high-profile event. You don't fit that world, and frankly, it's not fair to put you in a situation where you'd feel out of place. It would be awkward for everyone." My mother stood up, moved toward me, but stopped halfway. "You understand, don't you? Mrs. Montgomery's daughter clerked for a federal judge. The Thornton boy published research in a medical journal. What do I say when they ask about my daughter? That she works from home on a computer?" The kitchen fell silent except for the hum of the refrigerator, a sound that suddenly felt deafening. "I see." I picked up my keys. "I wouldn't want to damage your reputation." "Now you're getting it," Preston said, relieved I was apparently making this easy. "It's just one party. We'll do something for you separately. Something more appropriate." I walked past him, past my father who looked somewhere between guilty and grateful, past my mother who called my name once but didn't follow me to the door. They didn't know, because they'd never asked, that I'd spent the last 8 years building something real. Something that would make their country club friends and business associates look like small-town players. They assumed I was failing because my life didn't look like Preston's corner office and partnership track. They assumed wrong. And by Saturday at 6 p.m., everyone at that party would know exactly how wrong they'd been. 8 years ago, I met Cameron Wolfe at a tech conference in Austin. She was a back-end developer tired of corporate bureaucracy. I was a freshly minted computer science graduate with an idea that kept me awake at night. Mid-sized companies were drowning in data but couldn't afford enterprise-level analytics tools, and the cheap options were garbage. We founded Helix Data Solutions in my studio apartment with $12,000 between us and a belief that we could build something better. The first 2 years nearly destroyed us. 20-hour days, ramen for dinner. Every dollar we made went back into development. We slept on air mattresses in our cramped office space, took cold showers at the gym, and survived on the kind of hope that looks insane from the outside. By year 3, we had 63 clients and hired our first employees. By year 5, we had offices in 3 cities, and Fortune 500 companies were licensing our platform. By year 7, acquisition offers started arriving, real ones, with numbers that made my hands shake when I read them. I never told my family, partly because mixing family and business creates toxic dynamics. Mostly because I wanted to see how long they'd cling to their assumptions about my failure without asking a single substantive question about my work. Turns out, forever. They'd assume forever. 6 months ago, Quantum Dynamics Corporation, a tech giant that makes Amazon look small, approached us with a serious offer. Their CEO, Victoria Hayes, flew out personally. "Your platform is exactly what we need to dominate the mid-market sector," she told me over drinks at the Rosewood Hotel. "Name your price." We spent 6 months in negotiations, due diligence, contract reviews, legal teams examining every line of code, every client contract, every financial projection. The final number, $340 million. My equity stake, after taxes and splits, $180 million. The announcement date, Friday at 6 p.m., exactly 24 hours before my mother's party that I'd just been uninvited from. The irony was so perfect, I almost believed in divine intervention. Friday morning arrived wrapped in fog, the kind of gray dawn that felt symbolic. I met Cameron and our legal team at Quantum's downtown headquarters. 53 floors of steel and glass, where our signatures would change everything. Victoria Hayes greeted me in the conference room with a firm handshake. "Ready to make history?" I signed 17 documents. Cameron signed 14. Our lawyers exchanged folders with Quantum's legal team like priests performing a ritual. When the final signature was complete, Victoria opened a bottle of Armand de Brignac champagne, $3,000 per bottle, she mentioned casually. "What you've built is extraordinary," Victoria told me as we stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. "This platform will revolutionize how we serve emerging markets. You should be incredibly proud." "Thank you, I am." She checked her watch. "Press release goes live at 6 p.m. sharp. Every major outlet's ready to cover it. Local entrepreneur sells tech company for $340 million. It's major news in this market." I looked at my own watch, 2:47 p.m. My mother's party started at 5:30. "Perfect timing," I said. Victoria raised an eyebrow. "Big plans tonight?" "My mother's 60th birthday party." I paused. Though I wasn't invited. Her champagne glass stopped halfway to her lips. "They didn't invite you to your mother's party on the day you close a 9-figure deal?" "They don't know about the company or the deal. They think I've been wasting my life." Victoria stared at me for 3 full seconds, then burst out laughing, a genuine, incredulous sound that echoed off the windows. "Oh, Zora!" I almost feel bad for them. Almost? Almost. I drove back to my apartment, actually a penthouse condo I'd bought with cash 3 years ago, but never mentioned to my family, and changed into comfortable clothes. Yoga pants, oversized sweater. My usual uniform that Preston found so embarrassing. I had no intention of crashing the party. I wasn't chasing confrontation or desperate to prove anything. They'd excluded me, and I'd accepted it. But at 6:15 p.m., my phone would start ringing. And by 6:30, their perfect high society party would be burning to the ground. Drop a comment right now telling me if you'd show up to that party or stay home. And if you're loving this revenge story, share this with someone who needs to see it. At exactly 6:04 p.m., Cameron called. "Have you turned on the news?" I grabbed the remote. Channel 9's evening broadcast led with my professional headshot filling the screen. Breaking: local tech founder sells company for record $340 million. The anchor's voice was breathless with excitement. 32-year-old Zora Harrison has just completed one of the largest tech acquisitions in state history. Harrison, founder and CEO of Helix Data Solutions, sold her company to Quantum Dynamics Corporation for $340 million, marking the third-largest tech deal in the region this decade. They cut to footage of our downtown office building. A reporter stood outside. Sources say Harrison started this company in her apartment 8 years ago with less than $15,000. Industry insiders are calling her one of the most successful entrepreneurs to emerge from the local tech scene. My phone exploded. Text messages flooded in. Colleagues, clients, former professors, people I hadn't spoken to in years. Then a number I didn't recognize. "Miss Harrison, this is Andrea Chen from Channel 9 News. We're doing a special segment on your acquisition for our 10 p.m. business spotlight. Any chance we could get an interview tonight?" I was about to decline when another call cut through. My mother's number. "Miss Chen, can I call you back?" I switched lines. "Hello?" Chaos erupted through the speaker. Multiple voices shouting over each other, a television blaring, the clatter of something breaking. "Zora." My mother's voice trembled. "Is this real? What they're saying on the news?" "What are they saying?" "That you sold a company for hundreds of millions of dollars. They're showing your picture. Calling you a tech visionary and a self-made multi-millionaire." "Zora, what's happening?" I could hear my father in the background. "Let me talk to her right now." "I sold my company today," I said simply. "The one I've been building for 8 years while you thought I was wasting my life." Silence. Then my mother's voice, barely a whisper. "Everyone's watching. We have the TV on in the living room. Someone recognized your photo? All my friends are here. Helen Montgomery, the Thorntons, Preston's senior partners. They're asking why you're not here. Why we never mentioned you had a company. Because you never asked." My father grabbed the phone. "Zora, you need to get to this party immediately. People are asking questions we can't answer." "What questions, Dad?" "Why our daughter isn't here celebrating. Why we never talked about your success. Helen Montgomery just asked your mother why she's never mentioned that you're more accomplished than her daughter, who just made partner." Preston's voice cut in, loud and defensive in the background. "How were we supposed to know? She never told us." "Zora." My father's voice went hard. "Get over here right now and explain this to people." "Explain what? That I'm not an embarrassment? That I do have a real career?" "This isn't fair. You kept this from us deliberately." "I didn't keep anything from you," I said, each word precise and sharp. "I told you I was an entrepreneur. I told you I ran a software company. You chose not to take it seriously. You decided I was aimless and unsuccessful. That's not my fault." Preston snatched the phone. I heard the fumbling, his breathing harsh. "Get over here now." "Do you understand how this looks? Everyone's asking where you are. Why you weren't invited to your own mother's party. People are posting about this on social media. Your face is on the news at Mom's birthday party, and you're not even here." I wasn't invited because you said I'd ruin it, I reminded him. You called me an embarrassment who didn't belong around important people. Your words, Preston, not mine. The silence confirmed he remembered exactly what he'd said. Things are different now, he finally managed. Different how? Because now you know I'm rich? That's not what I... So, I'm acceptable now that I have money. That's your position. I heard my mother crying in the background. Real sobs this time, not the delicate tears she performed for sympathy. I'm not coming, I said. You made it clear I wasn't welcome. That doesn't change because new information makes me useful to your social status. Zora, please. My mother took the phone, her voice breaking. We made a mistake. Come here. Let me introduce you properly. Let people see. See what, Mom? Your successful daughter you're suddenly proud of now that she's valuable? That's not fair. Isn't it? From the background, I heard Helen Montgomery's voice, clear as a bell. Diana, I don't understand. Your daughter just sold a company for $340 million, and she's not even at your birthday party. What kind of family dynamic is this? The irony was exquisite. Their attempt to protect their social image by excluding me was now shredding that image because of my absence. I have interview requests to handle, I told my mother. Enjoy your party. I hung up and blocked all their numbers. I called Andrea Chen back. I'll do the interview. By 8:30 p.m., I was in Channel 9's studio, sitting across from Andrea under bright lights that somehow felt less harsh than my family's kitchen had 3 days ago. You started Helix Data Solutions 8 years ago with minimal capital? Andrea said, her eyes bright with genuine interest. What made you believe you could compete against established players? I saw a gap in the market, I explained. Mid-sized companies needed sophisticated data analytics, but couldn't afford enterprise-level tools. We built a platform that bridged that gap, powerful enough to deliver real insights, affordable enough to make sense for growing businesses. The first years must have been challenging. Brutal, I admitted. My co-founder Cameron and I worked 20-hour days. We lived in our office. We ate ramen and slept on air mattresses because every dollar went back into development. There were nights I wasn't sure we'd survive another month. But you did more than survive. We found product market fit. Our clients started referring other clients. We hired talented people who believed in the vision. By year 5, Fortune 500 companies were licensing our platform. And now Quantum Dynamics has acquired you for $340 million. How does that feel? I paused, considering the question honestly. Validating. Not because of the money, though I won't pretend that doesn't matter. But because it proves that the idea was sound, that the years of work and sacrifice led somewhere real. Andrea leaned forward. What advice would you give to other entrepreneurs, especially young women in tech? Trust your vision more than other people's assumptions. People will look at your life and make judgments based on what they can see. Your apartment, your car, your lifestyle. They won't understand that you're building something underneath the surface. Don't let their lack of imagination limit your ambition. The interview aired at 10 p.m. The segment was thorough and glowing. They highlighted Helix's growth trajectory, showed testimonials from clients, and included a statement from Victoria Hayes, calling me one of the most talented entrepreneurs I've had the privilege to work with. My phone became unusable from the volume of notifications. Extended family members I hadn't spoken to in years. High school classmates. Random acquaintances suddenly eager to reconnect. I ignored almost all of them. The only message I answered was from my college roommate, Hannah. Just saw the news. So proud of you. Not even slightly surprised. You've always been brilliant. Now the world sees it. Bet your family's losing their minds. I replied, You have no idea. I'll call tomorrow. The party imploded spectacularly. I learned the details later from Aunt Patricia, who'd always been kind to me and called from her own number Sunday afternoon. Your mother's guests spent the entire evening congratulating her on your success while simultaneously questioning why you weren't there, Patricia told me. Helen Montgomery kept asking pointed questions about family dynamics. Preston's senior partners seemed genuinely confused about why the firm's star associate had never mentioned his sister was a tech entrepreneur. Several people took photos of the TV screen showing your interview and posted them on social media with comments about the awkward situation. And Mom? Devastated. She retreated to her bedroom around 8:30. Your father tried to salvage things by giving a toast about how proud they've always been of you, but people weren't buying it. The party ended early. Preston called from a new number Monday morning. I let it go to voicemail. His message was pure Preston. We need to discuss how you handled this situation. You could have warned us about the announcement. You made us look like idiots in front of everyone. You owe us an explanation and an apology for embarrassing us. The audacity was almost impressive. My mother took a different approach, asking Patricia to reach out again. She wants to talk to you, Patricia said. She's been crying for 3 days straight. I'm sorry she's upset, I said honestly. But Aunt Patricia, they uninvited me from her birthday party. They called me an embarrassment. They said I'd ruin it. What was I supposed to do? You could have told them about your success. Given them a chance to see the real you. I've been building this company for 8 years. They never asked a single meaningful question about my work. They assumed I was failing and treated me accordingly. That's not my responsibility to fix. Patricia went quiet for a moment. You're right. They made assumptions. They were wrong. But Zora, they're still your family. Is this how you want things to end? I don't want it to end anyway specifically, I said carefully. I want them to understand that they excluded me based on completely wrong assumptions about my value as a person. I want them to realize their love and acceptance shouldn't depend on my bank account or social usefulness. And I want a real apology, not because I'm suddenly rich and valuable, but because they hurt me by dismissing who I was before the money. That's fair, Patricia said softly. Can I share this with your mother? If you think it will help. If you're still watching, you're part of the formidable family. Hit subscribe, drop a like, and comment your thoughts on how this ended. Should Zora forgive them? Let me know below. 2 weeks later, my mother called from Patricia's phone. I answered. Zora. Her voice was raw, stripped of its usual polish. I've been thinking constantly. Patricia told me what you said, and she's right. I was wrong. I waited. I assumed things about your life because it didn't match my template for success. You didn't have a prestigious job title, didn't talk about promotions or salary increases, didn't flaunt achievements, so I assumed there weren't any achievements to flaunt. I was so consumed with what I could brag about to Helen Montgomery and my country club friends that I never asked about your actual life, what you were building, what you were proud of, what challenges you faced. I was a terrible mother. The honesty surprised me. She wasn't making excuses or deflecting. Preston learned the wrong values from us, she continued. He's always measured worth by external markers, titles, salaries, prestige. We taught him that. He owes you an apology, and your father is struggling but trying to understand where we went wrong. Mom, I didn't build my company to prove anything to you. I built it because I believed in the idea, because I loved the work, because I wanted to create something meaningful. That's what hurt the most. Not that you didn't know I was successful, but that you assumed I wasn't and treated me like a failure without ever asking what I was actually doing. I know. I'm so sorry. We talked for an hour. She asked about Helix. Real questions about the technology, the clients, the challenges. She asked about Cameron. She asked what the acquisition process had been like. She listened. Preston eventually sent a text. I was wrong about you. I'm sorry. It was curt and probably killed him to send, but I accepted it. I kept my distance anyway. My father took longer. 3 months after the acquisition, he showed up at my penthouse unannounced. Can I come in? He asked. We sat in my living room, the one they'd never seen, in the condo they'd never known I owned. I was wrong, he said simply. I judged you by standards that didn't apply. I assumed your life looked a certain way because that's the only version of success I understood. I'm sorry. What changed your mind? I asked. Helen Montgomery's daughter came to me for business advice last month. She told me she's thinking about starting her own firm but is terrified of failure. I told her about you, about building something from nothing, about persevering through years when no one understood what you were doing. She said, Your daughter must be extraordinary to have that kind of courage. And I realized I'd never once thought about your courage, only your optics. We started rebuilding our relationship slowly. Not the old dynamic where they judged and I endured, but something new, grounded in actual respect. 6 months after the acquisition, I started mentoring young entrepreneurs through a program I funded. I met with founders working from studio apartments, eating cheap meals, pouring everything into their visions while people around them questioned their choices. I told them what I'd learned. Your worth isn't tied to other people's approval, to media coverage, or even to financial success. You're successful the moment you commit to building something meaningful on your own terms, regardless of who understands it. My family eventually learned that lesson. I'd known it all along. The revenge wasn't in the money or the headlines or watching them squirm at that party. The revenge was in never needing their validation in the first place and making sure they understood, finally and completely, what they'd almost thrown away by assuming I was worth less than I was. Some victories aren't loud. Some victories are simply continuing to build your life while others realize, too late, that they misjudged everything. That's the kind of victory that lasts, and thank you for sticking with us till the end. We love you.